The reason you would want a backup LLM is because we have seen OpenAI fail. We've seen Facebook fail. We've seen Instagram fail. There's no reason you shouldn't have a backup. At this point, all of the serious companies that know about AI more so than the ones that don't, that'll be one of the questions that you get asked: what happens when OpenAI goes down? So you've got to have a backup LLM. In this case, let's look at what we've got here. Just in our own account, I'll just make a new flow because we're already connected, I think, for sure to Google. But I'll create a new flow here, and I'll just call this backup LLM. And we can imagine that this could work for any flow, but we could pretend that this is going to be for our default reply. And so I'm going to start off with an OpenAI action in this case. So you will click actions, and I've got all three connected, actually, it looks like. I'm going to click OpenAI, and I'm going to click the action, the element here for OpenAI, and this is just going to be my default reply. And so I don't need to do anything special. And it's going to just say something like, for Chatbot Builder, your goal is to respond to questions in a helpful tone related to the software, period. Never respond with more than 3 sentences, and always stay on brand. Okay, so very, very basic prompt there. We have our, pretty much entire documentation in our own prompt, but you would have this work as your default reply is the point. The user message, to explain this in a way that I hope everyone will understand. Pretend this screen is ChatGPT. The thing that you cannot see in ChatGPT, unless you are using the system instructions, which is a thing you can do now. You used to not be able to do that. The business information / prompt, that did not really exist for you to manipulate. But this was ChatGPT, the bot, and then this is you, the user. So when you're sending a message to ChatGPT and then you get a response back, imagine this is that window. This is a really good way to understand what's going on here. Most of the time, you're not going to need to manipulate this user message field, because whatever the user has just said to your bot, that is the last input. So whatever they're saying, and based on your business information here, that should provide the answer returned to you that saves in a custom field here. And so in this case, because this would be our default reply, I could use something like this, AI default reply. In this case, I've got one function enabled. This is what we have by default. And this is this whole separate little subject that we'll talk about. But we're going to turn this off for now. You have other OpenAI options here, but in this case, we'll just simply use this. Actually, we'll actually use a real one. We'll use a prompt template. Okay, we have a prompt template, and this means that we've saved our business information in a way that we can, instead of having to copy and paste it multiple times, we're able to just use the drop down prompt template, and then I'm going to choose my prompt, and it was going to be, I think, official CBB. I believe this is going to be us right here. So our entire prompt that we could have typed here from our generate text or generate advanced text, instead of doing this over and over and having to copy and paste it to and from, we use a prompt template. So I've got that selected. In this case, I don't need to change anything, because whatever the user has just said, the prompt is in the prompt template. It'll act as if I've just typed it in the business information. It's the same thing. I'm going to turn off this function, and we're going to just save the response. With the custom field, I'll use AI default. Remember conversation, I'm going to set to yes here, because this is the first AI block that I'm going to use. Temperature is going to be your creativity, or how well your bot is going to listen to your prompt here. And in this case, it's our template. The higher, all the way to say 0.9. 0.9 is not going to listen to your prompt very much. It's going to disregard and disrespect your prompt. It's going to be very creative, put it that way. It's going to lie. It's not going to be very good. 5 is a recommended sweet spot now. But the lower you go, the more consistent your answers are going to be, the less creative, but it should be pretty consistently about the same thing every time. Your token limit here, just so you guys are aware, this is not restricting the output of your prompt as far as what would have been provided to the user. Instead, this is saying, okay, I'm only going to allow this many tokens, period. So in the case that a person out there said, I want you to write a 5-page response. Okay. Your bot might try to write that 5-page response if you've not prompted it differently here in your template or your business information. So it might try to do it, but it will stop. Oops, I keep doing that. It will stop once it's reached the threshold you've set here. If you want to limit the output that your bot provides, the best thing that you can do is to say this right in your prompt. You could even put it right here. Here's an example. Only respond to the message in 2 lines only. This is the message to respond to. This would work because we're still allowing the user's input to have an effect on the prompt. So we're going to have control over, based on the prompt, what the output's going to look like. Now, if you've got conflicting information, it's not going to work awesome. But if I don't have any information in the prompt related to how I want the output to be, this would do a really good job. And we can test that here. And so I'm going to click continue, and we're saving this in AI default. All right. And so I'm going to drag over. I could choose to use success, but I'm going to drag over for, I could choose to use continue, but I'm going to choose success, bring over another block. And I'll click add content, text, and we're just going to populate the custom field, the cuff AI default, because this is what we saved the answer in here. All right. Now, if the message failed, this is where the backup LLM comes in. So let's call this one OpenAI. And to ensure we know which one is coming in, what we'll do here is we'll say before we have that dynamic or the variable populated and filled in and printed or shown to the user, we're going to label it. And we'll remove this before we really go live with it. Okay. So I'll say OpenAI here. I can change the name here so I can see on the canvas which LLM we're using. OpenAI, and we'll call this the response. OpenAI response. OpenAI generate. So all making sense so far. OpenAI generate response. Now, in the case we do have a failure for whatever reason, what we can do here is open a new node, and this one's going to be generate Gemini response. We'll click add content. We'll choose actions and Gemini. Click on Gemini, and we'll use, I like Flash. Flash is great. In this case, what we'll do is we'll use advanced. The reason we want to use advanced is because the way that we use in our system after that last message has been sent, depending on how you have this set, will be dependent upon how our system reacts. So we do a really great job of handling the conversation for you when you've got this turned on. Because this is a prompt chain, we need to ensure that we turn any secondary node that may use this custom field specifically, last input, we need to make sure this conversation is turned off. Otherwise, you're most likely going to get an error that says there was no message being sent. And that could be because you actually had no message here. And that would be due to the fact that you have this turned on a secondary AI step, when this will in fact be deleted. What you need to remember is any secondary AI step that will use last input, please go ahead and put the remember conversation to no. Because remember, in the first block, we're keeping it to yes. One yes, and the rest of the time is okay to be no. The first block will remember the conversation for you. So we've got this set to Flash, we're using advanced, and we could have the same exact prompt from our OpenAI action here. So let's click continue. Oops, let's make sure we add a custom field here. Let's call this Google response. Well, I guess we should say Gemini response, continue. I'm going to grab the prompt from here. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So it's the exact same copy. And now we'll open up Gemini and we'll just paste in the prompt. So we're all even Steven. Reply to the message. And let's click continue. And then we can pop open another node here. We'll call this Gemini reply. Gemini reply. And we'll have a text block here. Gemini response is what we were looking for. Make sure I'm good here. This should be Gemini response. I'm going to hit refresh here and make sure my custom field's all good there. I'm sure it is. Gemini response, perfect. All right, cool. Sometimes I go a little fast. OpenAI generate. If it's successful, we're going to go here and it's going to get printed. If it's not successful, we're going to go here and we are going to make sure we do label this block as well, just in case so we can see Gemini. Now, what I will do is I'm going to add one additional block here so that we can actually get a good test. And this will be ask a question. I'll make this our starting step. And what we'll do is we'll ask with a get user data, we'll say, please ask a question or send a prompt. Hit here to choose our reply type, which will be text. We'll remove the skip button and let's see what we've got to work with. Any custom field I want to do, prompt updated. Let's do welcome prompt is fine. You could create your own, obviously. Welcome prompt, and I'll just print that text here. Well, actually what we'll do, we'll take the text. It's going to be saved as welcome prompt. It's okay because we're going to still use last input. Click save and we'll pop it over here. I think this should be pretty good. What'll happen here is we'll just get one response. We're going to send a message. The data will get saved. And you can always know a get user data block because you're going to see right underneath the text, awaiting user reply. Once the user has replied, then you're going to have OpenAI generate a response. And then that response will either get printed with an OpenAI label. If it fails for whatever reason, which it should not fail, then we'll get the generate Gemini response and it'll get printed here. So let's hit publish and try it out. So I'm going to grab the publish link here. I'm going to use Webchat and I'm going to paste right here. And it says, please, let's make sure you can see. It says, and I'll raise it up a little bit as well. Please ask a question or send a prompt. And I'm going to say, please tell me a joke about chatbots. And so the get user data was waiting for me to say something, and now we'll have our response. And it was an OpenAI response, as you can see here. OpenAI response. Why did the chatbot break up with his partner? Because it couldn't handle the emotional data. Interesting. All right, so let's go back here and let's show you in the backup LLM, let's show you what it looks like if they're going to go back to back. So in this case, if it fails, we could still go and connect the continue to generate and still give a secondary response. So this is going to succeed. OpenAI is going to get printed and sent to the user, us. Then Gemini will generate a response and it'll get sent here. So let's hit publish and I should be able to refresh and I'm going to send another prompt and we should get 2 responses this time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. Please ask a question or send us a prompt. And I'm going to say, tell me a very funny joke about chatbots that has never been heard. Be sure to include something about GPT-4 and Google Gemini. Let's see what kind of joke we're going to get. And we should get 2 responses. Boom. So we got 2. OpenAI. Why did GPT-4 and Google Gemini start a band? Because they wanted to drop some sick beats in the chatbot world. Sick beats. I get it. Gemini. Why did GPT-4 and Google Gemini get into a fight? Okay, see, Google, you guys like to fight, I see. Always causing problems. It's getting deep already. Because they both claim to be the most advanced chatbot and neither wanted to be second to the other. Very funny, guys. Excellent at being funny, I can say. Just kidding. It's all about the prompt. All right, and so I think that will complete our very first deal here.